Welcome to the Cybertron City Podcast, New York City's premier Transformers fan podcast, where we celebrate all eras of Transformers except cosplayers. I am Paul, and I am joined by my co-host Danny. Danny, how you doing?
Very good. Very excited to get this started.
Absolutely. It's our very first episode, so we'd greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. If you would do us a solid, if you can guys give us a 5-star review on Spotify or YouTube or wherever it is you're listening to this platform or this podcast, rather, we would greatly appreciate it.
Give it the highest amount of whatever they got.
Absolutely. We're not looking for OnlyFans level of simping quite yet. I mean, we're just starting to know each other. We're just starting to get acquainted, but we would appreciate, some regular listeners.
10,000 followers.
Exactly. We're going for that. We're going for the small little stepstones right now. Anyways, we decided to do this podcast just as something a little bit different. Danny and I met over Instagram not too long ago. And as much as we appreciate all the different Transformers fans out there showing off their awesome photography skills and some not so awesome photography skills, I felt like, at least for me, I like talking a lot more than I like shooting the pictures. It's awesome.
Yeah,
I do
too.
appreciate you guys, but I know that there's only a certain amount of me shooting lightbox photography where I'm like, okay, I need something a little bit more.
Yeah, 100%. There's only a certain amount of Dinobot snarls I could see before I start to lose my shit.
Well, it's more like Dinobot swoops nowadays because he's the new guy.
Oh, I'm so excited for that.
Do you have yours yet?
Yeah. I'm sorry?
Do you have yours yet?
No, I don't. I don't really like to pre-order things. I don't know about you. I like to kind of find them in the wild and then make the mad dash towards eBay if I can't find anything.
I remember my days of hunting in the wild. So fun, but so much time wasted.
So much time, so much gas, so much everything, bro.
Exactly. There's nothing quite like finding something in the wild that you've been looking for a while that you've just forgotten was even on your radar. And then there's nothing like going to Target for the 27th time that week and being like, it's nothing but boulder crashes and empty pegs.
Security's looking at you. They're like, this guy's planning to steal something this week.
This guy is like maybe going to the toy aisle way too much. Like, why is this dude well after college looking in the toy aisle? This is very sus.
Exactly. That's what happened with picking up Optimus Primal. He showed up once or twice, and then I never saw him again, and I regretted it. So I got him the next time I saw him. And now, I don't know how it is on your side of the borough, but, I mean, I'm on Staten Island. I'm on a whole different borough than him. He's in another borough. I don't know if he wants to disclose that, but...
It's Brooklyn.
Now it's Brooklyn. Oh, well, I mean, we were going to plug the socials anyway, so that was going to be a big giveaway, I guess.
Well, I haven't totally spoiled our socials yet. Stay tuned to the end of the episode to find out more.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about Primal,
right now.
When you're talking about Primal, are you referring to Kingdom or Studio Series 106?
Oh no, Studio Series 106. That's all I see now.
I know. It's every now and then. I think I've seen the concept art Megatron. This is the one from the Bumblebee movie.
You've seen him in the wild?
Twice. I saw him again for the second time yesterday.
Where?
Atlantic Terminal.
Trip to Brooklyn right now.
Atlantic Terminal. Like every now and then, like if you're looking for like a well stocked in terms of like being smack dab in the middle of downtown Brooklyn, for Transformers and whatnot, they're pretty good. But again, like that being like the main Brooklyn target, there's a bunch of collectors out there. I've seen some of these people like personally at like 8 o'clock in the morning on like a Friday or Saturday, like just scalping as much as they can. They're savage.
Mm-hmm. I was that person when Rise of the Beast Optimus Prime came out. And like you said, downtown Brooklyn, I mean, I used to hit the one by the Parkway all the way down in Brooklyn, the one next to Coney Island. And there was at least 6 Optimus Primes. I got like 4 of them.
Is that the one you can see from like New York Bay if you're driving across the Verrazano?
Yes, that's the one. The one that used to be the old Toys R Us.
Oh, Toys R Us, don't make me too sad, man. I still remember the one that had the big old Ferris wheel in Times Square, and now it's just some like Gap Banana Republic. It's just the mighty have fallen.
Disgusting.
Anyways, getting
Rex. Oh, so good.
Yeah, getting back to Studio Series for just a little bit before we dive into our main topic today. Speaking of new purchases and such, Swoop actually arrived this week. From shout out to the Command Store. Yeah, shout out to the Command Store. The Command Store. There's a little bit of a premium as far as prices go, but if you're looking to get stuff like relatively early and like relatively quick shipping speed too, Command Store is absolutely where it's at. They're like my new like home slice go-to.
They're your go-to now.
Oh yeah, definitely. Big Bad Toy Store, I liked it for a while and I still love the whole like pile of loot feature, but sometimes it's a struggle.
Sponsor us, Big Bad Toy Store. Big Bad Toy Store, we still love you though. Sponsor us.
Exactly.
But do you have the other Dinobots, speaking of Swoop?
Yep, I have all. He was my last one, and Grimlock looks so complete with his sword now. Just love it. All five of them. Excuse me. All five of them look fantastic all together.
I've been using Nemesis Prime sword for Grimlock sword for like the last 3 years.
The one from Walmart that had like the big old like red tip one.
The Power of the Primes attachments that went on the arms.
Yeah, those.
I'm so excited for Swoop. Like I was one of those people that when they started leaking that he might be a Voyager, I was still kind of excited for him because I was like, this is my first line of Dinobots that I'm actually completing. Power of the Primes kind of came and went, and I only got. And that was an entry block, and nobody else. But I'm very excited to finally complete my Dinobots. But talking about new purchases, is he?
He is. He's very solid.
He looks just like the rest in these pictures. He looks like, ginormous.
At the top of his head crest, he's like a little bit taller than Grimlock, but like eye level, they're all pretty much about the same. Grimlock might be slightly taller at like eye level, but he's rock solid. Definitely worth it. He's probably my.
Who's your favorite?
Grimlock, definitely, but aside from Grimlock, because like everybody loves Grimlock, probably Snarl.
Yeah, Snarl's really good.
Just because
he's kind of a sleeper hit, though. A lot of people aren't really getting him.
As a kid, Stegosaurus was my favorite dinosaur. Still is my favorite dinosaur, but just you gotta love that like little golden crest behind him.
You think they're gonna do a paddles?
I'm hoping for a slash eventually in core class.
Like a legacy, right?
There's a rumor that core class might be canceled. So again, not trying to spread rumors here, but
I think it is pretty much confirmed though. I don't know because I listened to some other podcasts and like look into the forums and even Target. Like I went over there to see if it was like true, and a lot of these core class figures are like heavy discounts now. They're like $6 now.
And you're seeing the ones from like a year ago. I'm still seeing. I actually saw one at the Atlantic Terminal one the last time I went there. The same time that I saw Concept Megatron, I saw Core Class Ironhide from Studio Series 86. And they still have Rise of the Beast RC and one of the like not Frenzy Terracons. I think Freezer or whatever it was.
Yeah, who was Freezer and damn, I hate that I don't know his name.
Novocaine.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah, Novocaine. Whatever. Yeah. Lazy repaint. But yeah, they reissued them with RC for no reason. Nobody really asked for another like redo of them. Nobody. I feel like everybody who saw them the first time got them, or everybody who wanted them went out and got them.
Precisely. I think
there's a lot of Ravages just sitting there. So
I know. Like if you're gonna reissue anything, reissue like 86 Frenzy, 86 Rumble, maybe give Steeljaw or Ramhorn or something like that a slot. Just like core class figures that we actually like, or like a Studio Series 2007 movie Frenzy. That would be great. We could get before the line's canceled, but I'm not holding my breath. 2025, if they're going to pack in a lot of these like smaller figures, they got to do like some gift set or whatever. It's sad to see core class coming to an end, but the way that some of these look for like how much they're charging, I can't say I'm surprised. Sadly. All right. I think, did you have any other new purchases you want to go over before we started the main topic for today?
Yeah, I got I think last week I went down to like an hour into Jersey because I was also trying to get rid of some bots. So I went to like a comic book store or toy store really that buys stuff, and they were selling a lot of like loose Transformers. So I went down and I ended up getting an Override GTS for $15, which
Nice.
honestly kind of a total steal. Also, nobody really wants Override GTS, so I was like, I'm that guy who likes Override GTS. So
And it was complete?
Yeah, complete. Well, no Cyberplanet key, but whatever. I mean, I have so many lying around. But I figured I have the Legacy Override, but I didn't want to get the regular Override. I'm like, I'm just gonna have two of these for no reason. And if it was the other way around and I had the older one, okay, I'll get the newer one. But if I have the newer one, why should I go get the older one? So this is my like way of having Override without buying the original colors.
But you said you did have the new Legacy version, right?
Yeah, I did have it. That's also that's such a good figure. I love that Override.
I know. I'm surprised they were even able to get like not only one but two new molds into a retail exclusive line, which is impressive. But I know there's still people out there that are like, Cosmos, what the hell? Like, why Hasbro? Why did you give us Crosscut in the main line and did not give us Cosmos? Like, what the hell?
I never saw Cosmos out in the wild.
Me neither. I had to like get on the pre-order of Walmart and Hasbro Pulse like same day, like immediately pre-order it, and within like 5 minutes it was gone.
I know it's like a lot of people when they get like got and they're ashamed of not getting something, they're like, oh well, I didn't want it anyway. I have that reaction, but I'm kind of okay with my Thrilling 30 ones, and people are not going to believe me, but I love that Thrilling 30 version.
There are some good Thrilling 30 figures that are actually better than the modern ones. Rhinox comes to mind, big time.
Oh, that Rhinox is a beast compared to whatever we got in Kingdom.
And there are some other ones like Jetfire that are just kind of cheap, and you're like, how did this past leader class from like 3 years ago? We had like Dark of the Moon Optimus Prime. That was a dark time. That was a very, very dark time from like 2012 up until like 2018. Not a fun time to be a Transformers collector.
Yeah, they started getting more traction during Combiner Wars.
And then once Siege took over, like, holy crap, like,
yeah,
more scale, more interesting transformation. Everything's like, oh, it feels like it's like unified, and we're going to continue this for a while instead of like changing the scale and design aesthetic all the time.
Yeah, I'm alright with the scale as long as I get articulation and accessories. I'm also fine with leader price point, but I feel like that's its own thing. That could be another episode.
That absolutely could be. And I think that's a good transition to our main topic of today. So I felt like this is probably the most important topic to start off any kind of a podcast. Like, why are we doing this in the first place? And being that this is a Transformers podcast, especially a Transformers podcast that we're going to try to create for all different types of Transformers fans, not just the G1 crowd, not just the movie crowd, but for everybody. Again, except KISS players.
We're coming for everybody. We're coming for
everybody. Exactly. And being that this is the 40th anniversary of Transformers this year, shout out 1984 gang. We wanted to kind of encapsulate, like, how did we get into the brand? What was our jumping on point? Why Transformers not only became something that was passionate from our childhood, but we've kept this fanaticism obsession going into adulthood. So, Danny, I'll turn it over to you for a bit, and you can tell your, I guess, Transformers origin story. Like, what sucked you into this plastic robot obsession?
It had to be when I was like 3 or 4 years old. Honestly, is that the time Cybertron came out? No, 2005. So 5 years old. Is when I started watching Transformers Cybertron, and I used to wake up like at 5, 6 in the morning just to get a couple of episodes in on whatever channel it was on, and I just fell in love with just these robots who were just fighting all the time, and this big winged truck that kind of just commanded everybody with such a powerful and yet gentle, like composure that he always had. And I remember, I'm not quite sure who was my first figure, but I remember Red Alert and Undermine being there. What got me into Transformers was Transformers Cybertron. That was my first kind of like step towards all this and step into the world of Transformers, where I used to wake up in the morning, used to watch the show at like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, right before school, finding out there was toys that went along with this cool show about robots fighting all the time. And I remember Undermine and the first version of Red Alert were my first figures. And when Cybertron ended, that was really it. So I kind of just had toys that I really liked to play around with and kind of show off. I used to take them to school. I got my Cybertron Optimus Prime as a gift. Like, I think it was a birthday gift. But once that show ended, I was kind of just left with these toys. And 2007 rolled around and the first live action movie premiered. And in my head, I was 7 years old. I'm freaking out. I'm saying, oh my God, they made this movie just for me. The one kid in the world who likes Transformers, in my head. So I was like, they made this movie about this thing I like, and it just ended, and now they're rebooting it because they love me. Like, they know I watch this at 5 in the morning. And then I was a big fan of Linkin Park before Transformers got a hold of their music. So I lost my mind when Linkin Park started playing. So I was like, this movie was specifically catered to me. And I went along with that for maybe like a couple years into it until I realized, oh, wait, this is a thing a lot of people like. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to hear how you got pulled into this too, but that's kind of the gist of how I kind of got introduced to everything.
Well, before I go on with my own story, I will say there is a definite correlation between the lack of Linkin Park in the Transformers movie soundtrack and the success of the live action franchise. I feel like once they went to, who was it? Imagine Dragons like for Age of Extinction. And then I don't know what the hell they were doing for The Last Night, which is just, I feel like no matter what. Oh, I have no idea. But like, I feel when it comes to The Last Night, what the hell were they doing that has a lot of wide-ranging meanings for that film? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell was going on. Just awful. But back to my personal origin story. When you're talking about being 5 years old when Transformers Cybertron was on, I feel old now. I'm not allowed to feel that old yet. So for me, I was kind of aware of what Transformers was when I was about like 3 or 4 years old. But at that time, it was like 1997. And this thing called Fox Kids was on. I'm not sure if you're too young for that. You're probably, if you were 5 years old when Transformers Cybertron was on, you're definitely too young.
I'm 24 now.
Oh my God. I'm turning 31 at the end of the month. So context. But it was the second season of Beast Wars at that time. And I remember very specifically, I don't know if it actually happened, but it was a fight between Tigatron and Transmetal Megatron, which
I'm just going to take your word for it.
I'm taking my own word for it, man. My memories are starting to get like Joe Biden territory.
We're gaslighting everybody right now. This is what happens.
Every time, every single time, no matter what. And then a few years later, Beast Machines came on. I got like some McDonald's toy and being like, oh my God, this is terrible. And that toy ended up being like thrust. It could not stand up. It was just janky as hell. Mm-hmm. Not the best toy ever. And then RID 2001 came on. And for context, this is right before 9/11 happened. So they had to like scrap and edit some episodes in because the very first episode of RID 2001 is Megatron going through Japan, wrecking a whole bunch of buildings as a giant mechanical claw that's purple. Great way to be introduced to a Transformers series. And I just remember the show being awesome. You know, I begged my mom to get us, my brother and I, the RID 2001 Optimus and Ultra Magnus. They combined. Those were my first Transformer toys ever. And continuing to watch Transformers over the years with Armada, Energon, Cybertron, but it always kind of being like, yeah, they're cool. I wasn't super invested into it. But like you, the 2007 movie really hooked me into the whole franchise. I was in high school at that point. Megan Fox was definitely like eye candy to like an entire generation of kids and teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And really started collecting in a major way since then. I haven't really stopped entirely, although my focus definitely shifted from being a more casual collector to hardcore, and then like being in touch with the brand, but not necessarily collecting 100% of the time. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, between 2012, when the toys started to get noticeably cheaper, they started using that like recycled plastic or whatever, and they started really cutting corners to keep costs down. That's when I started losing interest. So like that time between or after Thrilling 30 and then Siege, that like 5-year period, I kind of was aware of what was going on. I still saw the movies, but I had largely just checked out.
Yeah, I feel like everybody has those years where, you kind of take a break, either like by choice or just you kind of phase out of it.
I think that's healthy too. I think that's something that's not really talked about a lot in any kind of like collection or nerd circle or whatever. It's totally healthy to take a break of it. Like,
yeah,
it
becomes a drug at one point. You rely so much on it, and it's just where do you like? Where's that line drawn where it's too much?
At the end of the day, this should all be for fun, and it's a hobby. And if you have like the financial means to collect and have as many robots as you want and can possibly afford without turning into a hoarder, great. If you have a whole room of it and you have like, the Detolf shelves or an entire room that's like head to floor stuffed with robots, big and small, more power to you. But as long as it doesn't interfere with like your job, your like real finances, you're not going into tremendous debt over it, you're still able to date, you're still able to have friendships. Like, I feel if it doesn't interfere with those areas, it's not getting into like the addiction, mental illness part of your life. You feel me?
Yeah, exactly. All in like, well, I was gonna say moderation, but I feel like at our point we're kind of beyond moderation. But as long as you don't cross excessive moderation, I feel like you're okay. But I wanted to shoot a question back at you. Why do you think you're still a Transformers fan? What keeps you in? Why are you here?
Well, I'm still here because there's still new aspects of the franchise that I like. So, as far as fiction goes, I don't think we've had a rock solid mainstream, like accessible for everybody TV show since Transformers Prime. And that's just me. I know there's a lot of people that like Cyberverse. I can respect it. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But for me, the older I've gotten and the more that the TV shows seem a little bit more kiddie to me, which is fair. Like, in the end of the day, this is a franchise that is built for children. The comics have been the things that have really anchored my interest. I really liked IDW, elements of Phase 1, but especially when like More Than Meets the Eye kicked in, that kind of reeled me back in when I was in college. And the new Skybound universe that's being penned by Daniel Warren Johnson and Robert Kirkman, that's, to me, like my favorite modern like Transformers fiction of the last 5 years, easy, especially since the pandemic, like easily my favorite.
That whole comic universe is amazing.
I hope it moves away from being strictly G1 eventually, but I think given the state of Transformers media outside of the comics over the last, since Age of Extinction, really. But
yeah,
I think it's a good place to start. And as far as the toy side, like I said earlier, when Siege really reset everything for the Generations line, that set a new standard. The figures may have been a bit smaller than they were, in years past, but the materials really went up. The articulation really went up. And they and you might agree with me on this. They feel complicated to the point where they're challenging, but not frustrating.
Yeah, I kind of tapped out when they started, like after 2014, 2015, especially RID, when they went into like more simpler transformations.
Mm-hmm.
They lost me for about a year or two when that whole one-step changer gimmick became a thing. And I wasn't a big fan of that. In my head, I was like,
they
I
really
am a
pushed that
grown-up.
down our
I am
throats.
15 years old. Give me a complicated toy.
Exactly. You're a grown up at 15. That's cute.
I'm a grown-up. I want masterpiece level quality in this child-oriented toy line.
He's a big boy now, folks.
Yeah, I'm a big boy. I don't need this one-step shit you got me.
No more Fisher Price. No more Tonka for Danny.
No, absolutely not. But
no.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Transformers itself has a lot of like ways to people hooked in. Maybe I'm talking by like a business standpoint. I'm talking like just they're always giving something new. Like I said, they're giving quality, well, fair quality type media for people to follow. The comics is a whole other universe for comic readers. They got the shows, they got the games, they got sometimes 3 shows going on at once. The toy collectors, which is probably what I fall into, but I definitely portray myself as like, I would like to portray myself as a overall, just like I branch out into all of these little categories.
Yeah, getting back to what I was saying about the collector aspect, I really appreciate how starting with Siege, there's a much more attention to detail as far as giving fans the characters that they love and remember from their childhood pretty much as they remember them, and also introducing a lot of newer elements. So with like Legacy and Kingdom, for example, how they had like the fossilizers, how they had the new Junkions, the armorizers. That's like, okay, here's some new stuff. We're going to introduce new characters, new concepts to the mythos. But when they go back and do stuff like introducing Armada characters or Cybertron characters or Beast Wars characters, they're for the most part like 90% faithful. We'll get to how they've portrayed the animated and Prime characters in Generations, which is an entire
that's a whole episode.
Yeah, double standards much, but anyways. But I feel, for the most part, they're definitely respecting what the fans want and also giving enough newness and enough freshness to the franchise where it feels like there's still an evolution and there's still enough opportunities to make the franchise feel fresh for people that have been around for decades, if not the entire 40 years, and also be friendly enough to be like, hey, for newcomers, it's not just a kids thing. If you want to be introduced to the more collector-oriented side or the long-term fan-associated sides of the brand, there's a reason we're sticking here. And I feel lucky when I'm looking at people like BMAC or Evan or Mark, where we have really for the first time in a long time a true connection to the people behind the scenes, and they're not just like some corporate bigwig. Like these are fans that have been around for decades that truly are passionate and care and understand what fans want and are delivering this best they can with as much, corporate shenanigans as they can with their hands tied behind the scenes. They're giving the fans as much as they possibly can offer at a price point that's not going to absolutely murder our wallet.
You gotta like even think, it's like, what if these are characters that they themselves wanted as a kid? Like, what if in like the 2010s they were like, you know what I really need right now? I need a new Armada Starscream, or I need a Magnus. I want a Rock Lord type of Transformer, and it's now these fans are going out and kind of doing what may be their own kind of like wish list too. Like that's cool as hell.
They definitely got one of my big wish lists in 2022, a Menasor that doesn't fall apart just by looking at it.
I never had a Combiner Wars Menasor, but I had that I had the Optimus Prime. I had both versions, the white and the red Combiner Wars Optimus, and that was not a good combiner. That was not a good torso. So I could only imagine what that Menasor was like.
Superion was great. And that's pretty much all I can say for Combiner Wars.
Superion was great. That's it.
And the rest were just like it. Like I said earlier, that was a bit of a time in the franchise where I felt things were starting to get cost cutting a little bit too much. There was way too much mold reuse. There was way too much just shoddy materials for the amount of money they cost. So again, we're in a better place now with the way the figures are. And I'm very much looking forward to the rumored Superion next year.
I just got my Superion like early last year too, so I'm kind of bummed. I'm still holding my Combiner or Superion basically.
It's nice. It's a nice little display piece, but getting one where I can actually like, pose it and that not fall over or like do the splits, that's gonna be great.
All right, so yeah, I'm just completing my combiners that were out like 10 years ago at this point. I just got my Superion last year. I got my Defensor like mid last year. I completed the last limbs. And I got my Computron and I got my downsized Devastator from Combiner Wars. So hearing all these leaks about these new combiners, I'm kind of just sitting in the corner basically still playing with my old combiners. And I'm like, looking at them, like, I'm gonna have to sell you in about a year.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yeah, like everybody's talking about these sick combiners and everything. I'm just like, damn. Did you guys know Blades was a repaint of Vortex guys?
Oh hell yes, I did. Hell yes, I did. I remember getting those figures. I remember that was probably the last bit of Transformers where I was like actively going out to stores, doing the whole hunt. But once the pandemic hit, I think that the pandemic once, especially in New York, that was the last bit of time where I'm like, okay, I just got conditioned to like pre-ordering everything, especially with everyone and their mother not having Transformers except the same old Wave 1 Earthrise stuff for like 9 months. So I'm just like, I guess that's what I'm doing now.
There was this one day during the pandemic that the line was like almost to like the back of the electronics department in Target, and
oh no,
everybody's buying the essentials and everything. And I was with my girlfriend at the time, and we walked by the toy aisle, and I'm like, "Is that Titan class Scorponaut?" And we had to wait for like 20 minutes on the line so I could get them. During the pandemic, people are worried about diapers and toilet paper, and I'm just here like, this is gonna look so good on my shelf.
And your girlfriend's just like, God damn it, we came here for toilet paper. God damn it, Danny.
She's like, this kid, are you serious? You got to get it now? 20-minute wait?
I'm happy that I got the exclusives I did that year. I remember on my way to a girl's house, and well, I've told you the full story over DM.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of keeping it somewhat squeaky clean, things had happened, and I decided, no, I'm not going to go over to Queens. I'm not going to go over to her house instead, or apartment, or whatever, wherever she was living at the time. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to the Queens Center Target, wherever that's over by, close to Forest Hills or wherever that neighborhood is. And I found Earthrise Cliff Jumper. And she's like, you left me for Chipotle and Target? I'm like, damn straight. Cliff Jumper is my homeboy.
I know Cliff Jumper my whole life. I just met you today.
Shout out to Daniel Warren Johnson and his absolute just capturing Cliff Jumper perfectly in these new comics. I think I'm happy that Cliff Jumper's finally not getting like TKO'd immediately after he makes his debut in a comic, and now he's getting like proper love. Just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. A long time coming, but well deserved.
I saw Cliff Jumper in that comic. When was it that they revealed the cast? Like a year ago or so?
No, because Void Rivals hadn't come out by then, and they were still just like very hush hush about what Void Rivals was until Jetfire came into the panel. So maybe like 9 months ago, maybe. But I was surprised on that because we knew that at that point that Transformers was no longer in IDW's hands because their second iteration, not very good at all. But
I've heard like horror stories of what happened. I wasn't into IDW. I think I fell off like a while before they lost it. But I'm kind of like scared to touch any of those like issues leading
don't
up
touch
to
any. Do not touch anything after 2018. After 2018, okay. I tried for a little bit. Just
not good.
No, no. The art's okay, but like no.
I kind of get my comic entertainment through what people on Instagram are posting, and the digital comics. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really in tune with everything. I'm kind of just watching it. Like I'm watching everybody play with the comics, and I just hear what the cool kids are talking about.
So you haven't actually read the Image comics yet?
No, not yet. I've seen like the digital comics. I read read or heard, I don't know, but
read.
I've seen some dubs on YouTube too. So that's really what I've been. That's how I've been taking all the comic information.
Yeah, I was one of those guys that used to buy the floppies back in the day, but since then I'm like, I live in New York, and between having space for comics and having space for robots, the robots always win. And I've been going digital for the single issues, but I like Void Rivals and Transformers, the ongoing comic, enough where I'm like, I can buy the trade paperbacks for those. Shout out to Void Rivals, aka the passion project of the one and only Mr. Robert Kirkman, creator of Walking Dead and Invincible. But yeah, Void Rivals, for especially a new property, chef's kiss. Absolute chef's kiss. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, we're getting so many sponsorships this episode.
Absolutely. Shout out to
everybody.
Shout out to all of you guys for making it this far in a little rambling thing. We've, as you can see, we have a lot of thoughts on this whole like why Transformers, and tying it back to the larger topic at hand. Why Transformers? It's a hard topic to really consolidate into a one single like tangent-free conversation, because as we've been doing for the last however long we've been doing this now at this point, I don't have a timer right in front of me. It's a very wide-ranging topic. We can get into all sorts of stuff. We can talk about our childhood. We can talk about the stories. We can talk about like the frustrations of going to retail and pissing off women in the case of doing
pissing off the women in our lives.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to those patient girlies out there.
Yeah,
that are like,
it's going to be a question going back to in almost
everything that we do. It's like balance. We love these robots, but balance is key, folks.
Yeah. It could be a part of your life, but it shouldn't be your life.
You should not be like cloistering your Air Attack Optimus Primal or the Command and Convert. What's the new one that came out? Well, new. What's the one that came out with Rise of the Beast? The one that's like $155.
Isn't it like Supreme Optimus Primal?
It's the one that has the sound effects.
Yeah. The one that transforms, just lowering his legs.
Yeah. The one that's like, it's a transformer, wink, wink. And like literally all that happens is his head splits open and he stands up.
That's a whole nother episode of Transformers. And how we feel about them.
Price point. Exactly. Just, it's a very wide-ranging topic. Anything else you wanted to cover on why Transformers? Any other little sound bites you wanted to throw out into the ether?
No, I think that should wrap up the first episode. I mean, like we kind of both agree that why Transformers is going to be a question that's going to be answered in probably multiple episodes down the line. This is something that it's a pretty broad question. It's not something that could be, like you said, rambled on for an episode or so.
Exactly. A little bit of a homework question for you guys listening. Let us know in the comments. Let us know in your DMs. Let us know in just your general musings of the world. If you want to have a video note to this, fine. If you want to do a TikTok response to this, shake your booty as much as you want. We're probably going to not watch it that intensely, but knock yourself out. Just make sure you
voice notes are good.
No snoo. We do not condone Transformers and snoo. This is not 4chan. This is not Reddit. This is not Tumblr. We're not going there. I said we celebrate all eras but KISS players. We are not going into KISS players territory with this podcast. I think this is a good place to wrap it up before we go on any more tangents. Danny, any parting words you want to give to the people before we put our first podcast to close?
Yeah, I'd definitely like to plug our socials. You could follow me and Paul here on Instagram. My Instagram, MatrixMez23 with an underscore in between Matrix and Mez. And Paul's Instagram over here is going to be Brooklyn Bots.
You heard it here. Social media, definitely would appreciate the support.
Yep. You know where he lives now, Brooklyn. There you go.
Brooklyn Bots, exactly. The wonderful Lennon encampment. See, the two of us, we are connected not only by podcast, but we are also connected by the Verrazano
bridges. By the Verrazano Bridge.
shout out to New York City infrastructure. Shout out to
New York City.
This is a shout out to MTA. Get your shit together on Staten Island, please. Shout out to the potholes.
Oh my god. It's a whole episode right there.
Potholes. It's a whole episode. Potholes. That is the best alternate mode. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you all next time, and see you soon.
All right. Bye, guys.